Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time discussing cards from Lord of the Rings, the living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. And I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And today we're going to be discussing Elfstone from the Black Riders. That is a one-cost lore attachment that is both an artifact and an item. And it has the game text that when you attach this to the active location, that active location gets +1 quest point. But in response to that, after the attached location leaves play as an explored location, the first player puts one ally into play from his hand. So you get a free ally for this card. So, Grant, have at it. What do you think?
Like I say, I love this card. It's brilliant for what it does. I mean, it doesn't require a resource match. It doesn't require any forward thinking. You can put any ally you want into play from your hand. So whether that be a big Gildor and Glorian, or even if it's just something like Gandalf, who's only going to be around for a turn, you still get to pop him in. He does his effect, and then he pops back off again. But you've still got that it's only costing you one, or only costing a player one to do it. Yeah, the attached location gets +1, but if you attach that to, say, the brown lands that disappear after, like, basically is only 2 quest points for 5 threat, after you've attached Elfstone to it, you've only got to make 1 progress. So if you've got a Northern Tracker there, it's out. Well, not a Northern Tracker, Lorien Guide.
Right, the Lorien Guide.
It's auto explode anyway. Even down to its flavor text. I love the flavor text. It's a barrel, an Elfstone. Whether it was set there or let fallen by chance, I cannot say. But it brings me hope. Brings hope to me by Aragorn from the Fellowship of the Ring. Now, funnily enough, I've just not long read that chapter. I've just getting through the minds. Well, I'm at just before the breaking of the Fellowship. I'm in Lorien at the minute, and I remember reading that chapter, and it's like I remember reading. But where was it? And it's right here on the Elfstone. So. David, what do you think of the Elfstone?
Well, I like the theme of the Elfstone. I like the idea of being able to bring out an ally. I think that this is one of those cards that is more powerful the less players you have in the game. I think if you're playing solo, one-handed solo, this card is really good because you can control that you're bringing out one card. But if you're playing some sort of epic nightmare craziness with 16 players, first player moves all around and, it loses its effect, I think. But for one, to be able to bring out any ally in your hand for free, without any other penalty, it's not like that the ally disappears after a round or anything. I think that that's powerful. That said, I think that there are times when you do not want to add the extra quest point to the active location. So I don't typically use the Elfstone because I don't want to give the game any bonus that it doesn't give itself. I want to quest through those things, and maybe that's the way that I play the game because, I don't typically look through the encounter deck of any of the scenarios before I play. And so, I don't know if there's lands that may have 4 or 5 quest points, or if there are, 1 or 2 quest point lands, and then having the choice about when to play it, that can get confusing to me, meaning when there's 4 or 5, let's say you're playing it in the Hunt for Gollum scenario, there's so many lands in the Hunt for Gollum scenario. There's so many locations that, do I want to put it on this active location, or do I want to wait and put it on that active location? And then there's so many locations that come out that you don't necessarily want to add quest points to the location, because you have to use those quest points to try to get through to the scenario. So, for me, while I can see the power of this card, I just don't use it. I like that it is unique. I like the unique symbol on it, because you can't put 3 of them out at one time. You have to put them out one at a time, and that's really good. And I guess if you're playing a location control deck, which is a theme I don't use very often. I love the Northern Tracker. I love the Lorien Guide. I love those cards, but I don't use a lot of location control. So, I guess that would be the one time that I'm using this. But those aren't the decks that I play with. So this card has limited use for me.
I mean, I've always, whenever I've put Elfstone in, it's generally been with location control characters. Most of my decks contain at least one copy of the Northern Tracker. If I'm running Glorfindel, I'm generally running Asphaleth if I've got access to the Lore Sphere, which I would do if I'm running with Elfstone. So I'm always conscious about what I'm looking for. But generally speaking, that one extra quest point doesn't make that much of a difference in all reality. If you're able, say, pulling out the ally of Gildor or the ally of Haldia or even Bjorn, would you really want to say, well, I have to wait 5 turns to pull out Bjorn or Gildor, when I can play Elfstone and have it out next round, or if not next round, definitely the round after.
I mean, I see the importance of it. It's just not something that
you do.
That I do. It's not. It's
not David Kosher.
It's not in my sphere of play here. So,
well, maybe I should take you out your sphere of play and get you to make a location control deck.
I wouldn't mind doing it. I think that there's a lot of strong cards that can do that. Well, if you were going to ring this guy or this attachment, 1 being the one card to rule them all and 10 being the worst card in the game, where would you put this, Grant?
I'd put it 5 rings, mainly because it is definitely a situational card. You can't run it on every location. There are a few locations where, it'll be great, but locations like the Dreadful Gap in Khazad-dûm is definitely not one of them. Because that already punishes you for having characters out. So giving it +1 more, no thank you. I think I'll wait till the next location. How about you, David?
I think that I'm going to probably get hammered online when I say this, but I'm going to put this at an 8. I see the importance of the card in a certain type of deck, but it's a card slot that I'm not willing to use in a lot of my decks, and I think it has very niche use for what it does. I think that there's a lot of other cards that can pull out allies that is a better fit for the way that I play than the Elfstone. So that's where I'm gonna rate it. That's where I'm gonna ring it. 8 rings.
Okay, so why don't you join us next time for Sneak Attack, the leadership event card from the core set.